and try again.
Hello, grade fours. Welcome to your first virtual online social studies class. Today, we're going to start looking at natural resources and fossil fuels in Alberta. Before we start talking about what natural resources are, I want you to think in your head what a resource is. I'm sure you've heard me talk about resources. You could have heard your parents talk about resources. You might have even heard about resource teachers. Ms. Smith's a resource teacher. So think for a second what a resource might be. Okay, you're going to need the page that looks like this, and behind it should be this one, and then this one. It's a lot of writing, but we're going to go through it together. The first page says natural resources, and the top line says, Alberta has an abundance of natural resources, but what are these exactly? Watch the following video and be prepared to fill in the blanks. So I'm going to share my screen with you and show you a video explaining what natural resources are. Feel free to pause the video at any moment if you need to write something down. If you look below the picture on this page, there are blanks that you can fill in. If you miss something, don't worry about it. I'm going to go over it after the video.
You've probably noticed by now, in your years of being a human, that human beings need a lot of stuff to live. Food, water, shelter, YouTube, well, maybe not that last one. So where does all of this stuff come from? Why, it comes from our very own Earth. We live on a planet that has all of the stuff we need to survive. There's fresh water to drink, fruit on trees, and wood to build our houses. Convenient, right? We call this stuff resources. Because humans need so many of these resources to live, it's easier for us to form communities, like cities or neighborhoods, where these resources are plentiful, so we don't have to travel long distances to find them on our own. That's why you don't normally see big cities in the middle of deserts, where there's no water, or at the top of freezing mountains, where there's no food. Think about your own town and where it's located. If it's close to things like water and agriculture, that was probably no accident. Humans and other animals tend to thrive in places that are near the resources they need to survive. Of course, the stuff we need to live doesn't come ready to use right out of the earth. Although I would personally love it if there were, say, a lake full of pure hot fudge. But in order for us to use the resources around us, we have to transform them first. Because I'm kind of hungry right now, let's use food as an example. In fact, let's make a cake. Think about all the ingredients that you need to put together in order to bake one of these delicious treats. Let's start with some water. The water that comes out of your kitchen faucet most likely came from rivers and lakes around your town. But before the water is safe to drink, it has to be cleaned and stored in places like reservoirs and water towers. Okay, what next? Flour, eggs, sugar, and milk. These ingredients, and a lot of the other foods that we eat, have to be cultivated, which means grown on farms, before they can be shipped to grocery stores. In order to do this, farms have to be where crops and livestock can live and grow. All right, now we need to mix these ingredients all together. That means that our electric mixer needs power. The energy we use to power all of our gizmos can come from a lot of different places. Sometimes it comes from materials that we have to dig underground to find, like oil and natural gas. Some houses get their energy from the sun or by wind. Some towns that are close to large dams can even get their energy from moving water. But more on that later. Now, how do we bake this bad boy? The same kinds of energy that powered our mixer also help do things like heat our homes and cook our food. So from start to finish, everything we use to make our cake came from the transformation of the resources around us. The effect the natural world has on our lives is immense, and something as simple as baking a cake shows that we wouldn't be able to live the way we do without the abundance of natural resources on our planet. And it doesn't hurt that the end result of those resources can be a cake.
Well, now that we're all starving, we can talk about natural resources and where we get them. Where do they come from? So as the lady on the video said, natural resources are all around us. They are outside, They're underground, in forests, on farms, pretty much everywhere. Everything, voice crack, everything that you use or have around you came from a resource on our Earth. Because where else would we get it? Space. All right, so go to the first page. I'm just going to screen share my copy with you. Oh, way too big. Okay, so we are on this page. So the first question is, what are resources? The lady in the video said that resources are useful materials that can be drawn from when needed. For example, water, timber, and wheat. Think of the word natural means from nature, and resources are materials that are drawn from when we need them. So natural resources are things that we draw from nature, things that we take from nature. So take a second just to write that down. If you are a little slower than I'm talking, that's totally fine because you can pause the video. It's not live, so I will not wait for you. You can push pause. The next line says, because humans need resources to live, humans form communities. Think about Langdon, for example. Why do you think that Langdon is where it is? I hope you said that it's because Langdon was built on a railroad. And you're right, our school is actually built to look like a railway station. Why do you think it's important that humans live, or that we live near a railway station? Why do you think the original people in Langdon decided that was where they should build their town? Well, it's because the train could bring them things that they need, like wheat or oil or just other materials that they would need. Maybe they brought lumber on the train way back when they were starting to build this town. So the train track helps bring resources to us. So communities are formed around things that they need. So think about Calgary. Calgary's on two different rivers. When settlers came over from the east over to the west, where we live, they needed ways to travel. And the fastest way to travel back then was by river in a boat. So they settled on the rivers. They also needed water to drink and to feed, to have for their livestock, their horses and their cows. They needed water to cook. Basically, humans just need water to live. So that's why most communities around us are on a river or a railway track. So I'll just read that sentence again with the word communities in it. Because humans need resources to live, humans form communities, like cities, where these resources are plentiful. This is why we don't see large cities in the desert where there isn't water, or on top of mountains where food doesn't grow. I don't know about you, but I've never been to a town on the top of a mountain. Banff has a gondola that goes to the top of the mountain, but nobody lives there because it would be very hard to get food all the way up there. Now we're here. In order to use the resources around us, we have to transform them. I don't see anybody in here writing on a tree. So your paper that you're writing on right now was transformed from a tree. I think that sentence makes sense. A tree was transformed into your paper. Luckily, you don't have to carry a tree around in your backpack. Think about the water in your water bottle. Somebody had to filter that so that you could have clean water to drink. You didn't have to go to a stream and just drink some random water. Who knows what could be in it? Think about your pencil. That also came from trees, and the mineral graphite that's inside it was transformed so that it writes on your page. You're not just writing with a huge rock. So in order to use resources around us, we have to transform them. Water. This resource most likely comes from rivers and lakes near where you live. We live near the Bow River. Before it is safe to drink this water, it must be cleaned and stored in water reservoirs. A water reservoir is just a big tank that keeps water. That's why some towns have water towers. If you've ever been to Lethbridge or Drumheller, Calgary, I think, has a water tower somewhere. Cities and towns used to store water in big towers. Now it's mostly underground or at plants, but that's how it's stored. It doesn't come straight from the river into your house. Could you imagine drinking like fish germs, or who knows what could be in that water? So the water must be cleaned. Flour, eggs, sugar, and milk. These ingredients have to be cultivated, which means they're grown on farms. Milk does not look or taste the way it, wow, I'll try that again. Milk does not taste or look the way it does in your milk container in your fridge as it does on the farm. It would be a little warmer, a little different color, and it might not taste the same as the milk that's in a container in your fridge. Sugar would look different. The flour has to be made from grains, has to be ground up into what you get in your cupboard. So all of these things have to be cultivated and transformed, but they come from farms. The next one, electric power. Power can come from a lot of different places. Oil and natural gas are extracted from beneath the ground. I bet some of you guys have parents who work for natural gas or oil companies. My dad works for a natural gas company. It's very important to Alberta's economy, but all of that is taken from beneath the ground. Solar power comes from the sun, and wind power comes from turbines. We're going to look at that a little bit later, but if you've ever driven down to Lethbridge, you'll see hundreds and hundreds of wind turbines turning to generate electricity. Power is important in our homes because it helps us to heat our homes and cook food. So all of these resources, again, I'll review, come from nature. They have to be transformed so that we can use them in our daily lives without having to change them too much. And some are cultivated, which means they grow on farms. Different types of power can come from oil and natural gas beneath the ground, solar power from the sun, or wind power from turbines. And we need power. Imagine not having power in your home. You would be in the dark, you wouldn't be able to play on your iPad, you wouldn't be able to play video games, you would be bored and cold and in the dark. All right, now we're going to switch to the page that says fossil fuels. I know I got excited when I saw the word fossil, but we're not talking about dinosaurs yet. Fossil fuels. Oh, I'm on the wrong page. Give me 1 second. I'm getting a lot of emails. All right, you are on this page now. It says fossil fuels. I'm going to screen share with you again, and then I'm going to go through the reading with you, and then we're going to watch another video. So hold tight for a second. Okay, fossil fuels. There we go. Okay, just like I said before, if I'm reading too fast, you can always go back and watch me read again. It won't make me tired because this is a video. Now that we have learned about natural resources and what they are, it is time to explore what natural resources are available in Alberta. Alberta is known as the energy province in Canada for its role in transforming fossil fuels into energy. So Alberta is a pretty big deal in Canada. Energy is necessary. So Alberta is a pretty big deal in Canada. We provide a lot of energy to the rest of the country. We've got a ton of natural gas and oil that we ship all around the country so that people can stay warm in their homes. Energy is necessary to produce electricity for several reasons, such as heating homes and running electronics. So what are fossil fuels? We're going to watch the following video and fill in the notes below. Like I said before, the video does fill in the notes for you. So if you're listening closely, you should be able to fill in these blanks. However, if you can't, if she goes too fast or he, I don't know who is in the video, but if they go too fast, you can always pause. It's always an option, or I'll go through it after.
Fossil fuels. Fossil fuel is a term used to describe a group of energy sources that were formed from ancient plants and organisms during the Carboniferous period, approximately 360 to 286 million years ago, even before the age of dinosaurs. At that time, the land was covered with swamps filled with organisms and plants. As they died, they sank to the bottom of swamps and oceans and over millions of years started decomposing under layers of sand, clay, and other minerals. Different types of fossil fuels formed depending on the combination of organic matter, temperature, time, and pressure conditions while decomposing. There are three major types of fossil fuels: coal, oil, and natural gas. Coal was formed from ferns, plants, and trees, which hardened due to pressure and heat. Oil was formed from small organisms, like zooplankton and algae, where pressure caused the more complex organic matter to decompose. Natural gas was formed by the same process as oil, only it was exposed to more heat and pressure, causing it to further decompose and turn into a gaseous form. Fossil fuels are sought after energy sources because they have a high energy density. They are the world's dominant energy source. Fossil fuels have a variety of applications from electricity production to transport fuels. They can also be used to make a variety of common products, from plastics to cosmetics to even some medicines. These resources have powered industrialization over history and continue to do so today. Fossil fuels can be an abundant and cheap, or in some cases, a scarce and expensive form of energy, depending on geographic location. For this reason, geopolitical issues arise due to scarcity caused by the natural geographic allocation of these highly valuable resources. Fossil fuels are considered non-renewable resources because they take millions of years to form, which means that once they are used, the resources will not be replenished in a human lifetime. The gradual depletion of the most accessible fossil fuel reserves have forced companies to develop technologies for extracting more challenging or unconventional reserves. In many cases, this means additional safety and environmental concerns as well as higher costs. Fossil fuels are also the largest emitters of carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas which causes climate change. In addition, their production causes both environmental and human health issues. These concerns have triggered society to look at alternate sources of energy that are more environmentally sustainable and renewable. That's fossil fuels.
All right, she spoke really fast, but I did see a lot of the answers in there. So I'm going to share my screen. Actually, I'm not going to share my screen because the first one I wrote down the answers for. So if you are looking under this video, we are right here where it says fossil fuels. So follow along with your finger as I read. Fossil fuels is a term to describe a group of energy sources that have been formed from ancient plant and organisms. That means dinosaurs. As these plants and organisms died, they sank into the bottom of, do you remember what the lady said? She said swamps and oceans, spelled like that. SWAMPS and oceans, OCEANS. Pause the video if you need to spell that. Sorry about my messy printing. Over millions of years, these decomposed under the pressure of sand, clay, and other minerals, eventually making sedimentary rocks. So they're being squished down for millions and millions of years. Remember, these things died when the dinosaurs were living. So this did not happen like 100 years ago. This didn't happen yesterday. This happened millions of years ago when the dinosaurs walked the earth. So it took a long time to make these fossil fuels. Different forms of fossil fuels formed depending on several factors. So these tiny organisms getting squished between clay, sand, and other minerals, they formed several different things, but they were different because of temperature, time, and pressure condition. So like how they were squeezed. This is taking us all the way back to grade 3 science with rocks and minerals. So temperature, time, and pressure condition. Do you remember what the lady said about the 3 major types of fossil fuels? I hope so. They were coal, oil, and natural gas. And they're on the screen. So you can copy those down right here. Coal, oil, natural gas. If you didn't get them when they were on the screen, pause and copy those 3 down. Coal mines were huge a long time ago. There's a huge coal mine in Lethbridge. There's a really big one in Drumheller where I used to live, and people would go underground to dig up the coal. Well, do you guys use coal to heat your houses anymore? No. Coal is a dirty fossil fuel. It takes a lot to burn and it creates a lot of black smoke, and it's really, really dusty and dirty to have in your house. So people developed machines that could turn natural gas into energy. So the natural gas and the oil is a lot cleaner to burn than the coal was. So now you probably have a natural gas hookup in your house. Let's move on to this fossil fuels page. And this time I'm actually going to share my screen with you. We're almost done. I hope you're learning lots. If not, we can always watch it again. Okay. So I'm going to read for you. If you would like to read this on your own and fill it in, you can always skip through to the video. Just make sure you come back onto the video when I start talking again and it's my face. Fossil fuels is a term used to describe a group of energy sources that have been formed from ancient plants and organisms. As these plants and organisms died, they sank to the bottom of, again, oceans or swamps. Over millions of years, these decomposed under the pressure of sand, clay, and other minerals. So again, these things got squished for millions of years. Different forms of fossil fuels formed depending on several factors. Again, those were temperature, time, and pressure condition. The three major types of fossil fuels are oil, natural gas, and coal. Yes, I know we already wrote this down, but it's good to get it into our minds. Coal is formed from different plants and trees that hardened due to pressure and heat. So coal is plants and trees. Try to remember that. When you think of coal, it was made from dead plants and trees getting pushed underground for millions of years with lots of heat and pressure. So the plants and trees made coal. Oil was formed from smaller organisms like zooplankton and algae. Let's look at a picture of what zooplankton looks like. Weird. So when these little tiny things died and got squished, they turned into oil. Zooplankton. Oh my goodness, what is happening? Okay. Natural gas formed from the same process as oil, but with more heat and pressure. So more organisms got squished and pressurized for millions of years, and it was really hot. So natural gas was formed with more heat than oil and coal. It was the hottest. That's what they're saying right there. Next sentence, fossil fuels are the world's dominant energy source. Now, based on what that lady said, do you think this is a good thing? Is it good that fossil fuels are the most important energy source in the world? Now that's debatable because she did say that they can run out. And do we see any dinosaurs or anything that can go die so we can have more in our lifetime? No, it takes millions of years. So that's why scientists are working so hard right now to find other renewable natural resources that we can use to power our homes and our cars. So that's why there's more electric cars, there's more wind power, water power, and that's something we're going to talk about later on. Fossil fuels can be used for electricity production as well as it can be used for the production of many common products such as, so they put all three of these on number one. You can put one on one and one on two. So the three answers include cosmetics, so like your makeup, different kinds of plastic. So anything plastic came from the fossil fuels. So think about that. Think about how much plastic is even in our classroom. Look around. Look at your book bins. Look at the document cameras, plastic. Chairs are plastic. Your desk bins are plastic. The paper towel holders, plastic. The garbage can, the recycling bins. I could go on and on and on. Plastic is everywhere, and it is made by fossil fuels. Fossil fuels also make lots of medicines. Fossil fuels are considered a non-renewable resource because they take millions of years to form. It takes a long time. So these things aren't just going to come back. We're not going to make new oil in our lifetime. So it's important that we use it wisely. Fossil fuels are the largest emitter of certain greenhouse gases. So when you think of greenhouse, you might think of where you plant your flowers, but there is something called greenhouse gases, which are gases that release into our atmosphere and aren't necessarily good for us to breathe in. So their production can cause environmental and health issues. We're going to talk about that again later as well. Because of these concerns, society is now looking at more environmentally friendly forms of energy. So there you go. That's natural resources and fossil fuels. I'll do a quick recap and then you are done your first virtual social studies lesson. So natural resources are useful materials that can be drawn from when needed. So natural resources, if you go outside, are all around you. I can't even talk. There's trees, water, even dirt. Everything is a natural resource. If you look out into the farmers' fields, there are crops. Well, not right now, but they just harvested all their crops. Those are natural resources. The things that are grown on farms have to be cultivated, brought to us by farmers. What else? There's different kinds of power that we can get from natural resources like oil and natural gas, solar power, wind power. Fossil fuels are created by organisms millions of years ago dying and then being squeezed and heated in different ways to create coal, oil, and gas. And those things are non-renewable resources. All right, well, hopefully you understand. If not, ask one of the teachers in the room. We'll see you next time when we talk about something else. Bye.